complex to sort of plan ahead. It's just terrifying for them because they're now not used to having tax demands from HMRC.
No.
From one year to the next. Now, the issue comes with how they pay this tax
just
liability.
To push back to my question, they would previously, because they're PAYE, these people, are they, generally?
Yeah.
So previously they wouldn't have expected any tax bill at all?
No, not at all. So
this is what I'm trying to... They've gone from 0 to 80 in 3 seconds flat, then?
Exactly.
Sound like
if you
Jeremy
think
Clarkson.
about the type of people who they are, they're very sensible with their money. They're not extravagant. They don't necessarily... They're not big capitalists. They're not like the big city fat cats that this type of tax...
Well, they're working for the NHS, aren't they? They're not working in a dodgy Rio de Janeiro surgery.
Absolutely. They pay the taxes and they work hard for a living, love what they do, and then one morning they wake up and they've got this huge tax liability, and it is scary. And last year, for example, I had a doctor in with his wife, and they'd ended up with £60,000 worth of tax bills over 2 years.
And this scares
she was crying.
Yeah.
She was 27 weeks pregnant and crying because they were just terrified, because this is not how these people live. They don't live like that. They're not extravagant with their money. They're just sensible.
And they've played by the rules, they thought. So it's as if someone's moved the goalpost while they weren't paying attention, in a sense.
And they've all blindly walked into it. And I just think that sometimes the Treasury's just got it wrong. You know, they should hold their hands up and say, look, this tax is unfair, and it is really, from a mental health aspect, it's really punishing these people.
Well, I can clearly see that. And how then, and this isn't necessarily your field of expertise, you're a financial advisor who specialises with medical professionals, but how does this then move into the overtime question or the work to rule question?
So it's this issue with the threshold, what's called the threshold income.
Yes.
So this is essentially what threshold income is: your taxable income plus your personal allowance, because they're not allowed to take that personal allowance off the taxable income. So that, broadly speaking, is the threshold. So if their earnings are at or around 110,000, they've got to try and stay underneath.
So then I'm not going to work on Saturday.
Huge tax.
I'm not going to work on Saturday. Simples.
So essentially, what happens is the government have also brought in anti-avoidance legislation. So the only way that they can get around it legally is by earning less money. And actually, these people are not necessarily geared up. They don't necessarily want to earn lots of money. So where they've been,
and yet it was designed to address, presumably, and this penny's only dropped while I've been listening to you, Rachel. It was designed to address people who do seek to earn pots and pots and pots of money and dodge some of their tax liabilities legally by sticking it all in their pension pots.
Yeah, correct.
Bingo.
And these guys, if you think about it, are civil servants, so they essentially have a structure to their earnings, so they haven't really got a lot of flexibility like the private sector would have. So the annual allowance, so this is the amount of tax-relieved pension savings that you can make from one year to the next, is 40,000. And this tapered annual allowance can bring it right down to £10,000 a year.
Got you.
So if you're in a personal pension, like a stocks and shares pension, let's just say, the measure against the annual allowance is how much you contribute. That's your gross pension contribution.
Yes.
So a bit like your ISAs, you can say, look, I've only got X amount of money to spend on my pension this year. I'll just make sure I'm within that limit. But the NHS pension scheme is totally different because it's a final salary scheme. So it's based upon the growth of the pension from one year to the next. And they can't control it.
I've got you. I think I've got you. I hope people listening have. Most of them are cleverer than me at such matters, so they'll be ahead of where I am at the moment. So then you get this one-off. Well, it's going to be 2-3 tax bills, as you say, because it came in 16-17, 2016, 2017. So that's 2 or 3 tax bills you're going to get, at which point, I mean, crikey, so some of them are still to come, but you're not going to do any more weekend work or overtime work ever again, because otherwise these would they'd be coming in every year. So they've got to suck up a big, massive hit in the short term
Yeah.
But one long-term solution is to stop doing overtime.
Yeah. And
What?
that
Have you
is
ever
the
seen
way that
anything
they're
like this
trying to
before?
manage.